I want to welcome you back to the D-Lo Show. I am your host, Ryan D-Lo Delosier, and I have an article here that I just couldn't go without covering right here. So I saw this today. I'm always scrolling the news and looking for stuff to be able to cover, and this is from the Tri-Cities Herald. It's out of Kennewick, Washington. And it was an article when I was coaching when I first started teaching. I was coaching high school football, so this one kind of hit home a little bit. This is the story of Coach Bob Mars, and when he was murdered. Basically, he was a coach and a teacher in Benton City, Kiona-Benton, which is down in the Tri-Cities area. So the title of this one, it says, "Error Gives Murderer of Tri-Cities Coach Second Try at Release." This is from March 11th, 2026 from the Tri-Cities Herald, which is out of Kennewick, Washington. And this is from Carrie Annette, who's a staff writer for it as well. So in Benton City, Washington, because of a clerical error, a man found guilty of murdering a Benton City teacher, a favorite coach, will get another chance to convince a Washington State board to release him early from prison. In September 2024, Robert Suarez, then 16 years old, and a younger teen were stranded in Benton City without a ride back to Kennewick when they saw Coach Bob Mars pull into a Kiona-Benton school parking lot to drop off a game tape from earlier that evening. So Bob Mars was a football coach. And at this time in September, September is the fall. The boys of fall, they're playing football. So they had won their game, and then he just stopped by to drop the game tape off, because back then we used VHS tapes and we recorded our games so that we could watch them again the next day. So as Coach Bob Mars sees these guys, he's a good guy, good with kids, likes to help people out when he sees stuff. I mean, it's late at night after a football game. The football game started at 7:30. They're done by 10:30. And if they had traveled somewhere that night, and came back, it could have been 11 or 12 o'clock. So according to the article right here, Mars offered to let them use the landline phone in his middle school portable classroom. So why a landline phone? Well, it's 2004. Not everyone has a cell phone at this time. So this is, again, dating this a little bit. We're talking 22 years ago. The younger teen, who's Jordan Castillo, he was then 14, stabbed Coach Mars in the back as he left the portable classroom. And then the teens took his pickup, his cell phone, and about $300 that he had from a fundraising event. Kris Mars, who was married to Mars, posted on Facebook this last weekend, that a liaison with the Washington State Intermediate Sentence Review Board recently called her to say the board had made a, quote, clerical error prior to an August 2025 hearing on whether Robert Suarez could be released early. In that hearing, the board denied Suarez's request, determining on a 3-2 vote that Suarez was more likely than not to commit a new crime if let out of prison at this time. Kris Mars said she was told that the state erred in not verifying that Suarez had received all documents he was legally entitled before the August hearing. And so in a letter from the board, she was told that Suarez's attorney found that Suarez had not received some important material that the board considered in its decision. And so as a result, a new hearing is set for April 15th. Kris Mars asked for the Tri-Cities help. And this is what she said. This is a quote specifically from Kris Mars. "I am not here to whine about this, but I'm pleading with you to take action," she said, appealing to those who knew and loved him, were taught by him and were coached by him, and those who care about justice. She asked people to consider writing to the board to let them know that the community is outraged by the board's lack of efficiency. She provided a sample letter on her Facebook post at facebook.com/Kris, which is KRIS .Rudolph, RUDOLPH.1, urging that the board review how the error occurred, but to stand by its 2025 decision denying Suarez's early release. An oversight of this magnitude, particularly in a case involving a 2004 murder of Bob Mars, raises serious concerns about administrative diligence and the integrity of the proceedings, she said in her sample letter. But the findings from the board's decision reflected careful review and maintaining that decision would reinforce the importance of accountability and consistency in the board's process, she said in her sample letter. Kris Mars rallied support on social media before the board's first hearing on releasing Suarez early, convinced Tri-Cities area residents to write letters, email, and attend a hearing in Lacey, Washington. When she believed Suarez did not tell the truth about the crime in the hearing, she contacted retired Benton County prosecutor Andy Miller and Lee Cantu, a detective who investigated the murder. They joined Kris Mars in writing letters to the board to provide information about the attack. Kris Mars said after the first hearing that Suarez intended to return to the Tri-Cities that would traumatize the Mars family and would represent a failure of justice and public safety, she wrote in a letter to the state board. She also was concerned that Suarez's gang affiliation was not given enough in consideration by the board. She maintains he is still violent and is in contact with gang members in the Tri-Cities, Spokane, and Walla Walla. Suarez was sentenced to 27 years. Suarez was tried as an adult in the case and was convicted March 11th of 2005 of first-degree murder by the Benton County jury and was given the maximum sentence of nearly 27 years in prison. Castillo was sentenced to nearly 30 years in prison after a jury found he was the person who stabbed the coach. And the Intermediate Sentence Review Board has had jurisdiction over cases in which crimes were committed by people not yet 18 but were sentenced as adults. Earlier, Kris Mars posted that she also expects Castillo to request early release. Bob Mars was found the morning after he was stabbed lying in the hall of the school's main building, where it's believed he collapsed while trying to reach a phone in the teacher's lounge. He was a 6th grade teacher at Chi B, an assistant football coach at Chi B High School, and a wrestling coach at Kennewick High. He lived in Richland with his wife and sons Kyler and Cody, while older son Bobby was stationed at Camp Pendleton, California. Bob Mars was 44 when he was killed. Letters to the Intermediate Sentence Review Board may be emailed to isrb@doc1.wa.gov or mailed to P.O. Box 40907, Olympia, Washington, 98504. So that was just the article from the Tri-Cities Herald. I wanted to read through that first and then just give you a little bit more on this. So the murder of King Robert Bob Mars is a case profoundly affected in the Kiona-Benton City community. Mars was a 44-year-old 6th grade teacher at Kiona-Benton Middle School and a well-regarded coach for both football and wrestling. And then on the night of September 4th of 2004, he had just returned to the middle school to drop off game tapes after a football trip. So here's what happened. While at the school, Mars was approached by these two teenagers. One of them was named Jordan Castillo, who was 14 at the time, and Robert Suarez, who was 16. The pair used a common ruse to get close, asking to use a phone to call for a ride. Mars, known for his kindness, allowed them into his portable classroom to use the phone. As they exited the classroom, the encounter turned violent. The attack happened. Castillo stabbed Mars in the stomach. Despite the fatal injury, Mars managed to run toward the main building of the school, where he eventually collapsed and bled to death in the hallway. But instead of calling for help, the teens ransacked Mars' Toyota pickup truck, stealing cash, a cell phone, and a box of crackers. His wife, Kris Mars, reported him missing the following morning when he didn't return home. His body was found by the school principal and a teacher at around 8 a.m. the next morning. Investigators quickly identified Suarez and Castillo as suspects. Physical evidence played a major role. When Castillo was arrested, he had a fresh MSP, which stands for Mexican Stand Proud, tattoo on his hand. And Suarez had fresh cuts on his forehead, both indicative of a gang initiation ritual. The prosecution argued the murder was part of this initiation, though they also emphasized the robbery aspect, which led this to become felony murder. Both teens were tried as adults during this right here, and a significant decision on for their ages at the time, which went along with this. So Robert Suarez, his role, he was the accomplice, but also the instigator, and he got 27 years. And Jordan Castillo was the main assailant, and he was given 30 years in this sentence as well. So Kris Mars has remained a vocal advocate for her husband, appearing in media recently to oppose the early release of the two men. She has criticized the lack of transparency in the Intermediate Sentence Review Board, the ISRB process, which allows offenders to petition for release after serving a portion of their sentence if they were juveniles at the time of the crime. And then this is leading into a lot of the cases that we've seen already, the Nikoloff murders, which I had talked about before, and a lot of these individuals are under 18. They're but they're committing adult crimes that go along with this. So there is an RCW that goes along with this. So in recent developments in the Bob Mars case, center on Washington State's laws regarding juvenile offenders, specifically what's known as RCW 9.94A.730. And this law allows individuals who committed crimes as minors to petition the Intermediate Sentence Review Board for early release after serving 20 years. So that will be this particular case right here. Both of these perpetrators have reached their 20-year milestone. Robert Suarez and Jordan Castillo, they both reached a 20-year milestone. And so they're looking to try to get released based on that. And this leads to a new and painful chapter for the Mars family in the Benton County, or the Kiona-Benton community. Suarez's petition for release was officially denied on September 8th of 2025. The board's decision was based on on several critical factors. So despite his defense's claims of rehabilitation, the board noted a history of violence in prison connected to gang affiliations that continued as recently as 2019. Psychological evaluation, specifically what's known as the VRAG-R, they placed him in a high-risk category, suggesting 45 to 69% likelihood that he is going to violently reoffend. The board found, in particular, that Suarez expressed a desire to return to the community where he did the murder. They noted this showed a profound lack of understanding regarding the ongoing trauma his presence would cause the Mars family in that community. Suarez is not eligible to petition until 2030. Jordan Castillo, he was the primary assailant, had his hearing tentatively scheduled for February of 2026. And he used what's known as the Miller defense. So his legal team typically argues that children are different, citing brain development and the potential for change over 2 decades. Kris Mars has been a tireless advocate, opposing his release at every turn. She has criticized the ISRB process for its lack of transparency and for forcing victims to relive trauma every few years. A little then and now to go along with this. So Benton City, it's a small town. It's actually on the edge of Tri-Cities. So it's a tight-knit little community where the middle school and the high school serve as the community hub. Bob Mars, he wasn't just a teacher. He was a person who stayed late to help kids. He coached multiple sports, and he was seen as a mentor by hundreds of kids. The fact that the murder happened at the school, a place of safety, caused a deep psychological wound for this particular town, for the community of Kiona-Benton, also known as Ki-B. At the time, the memorial services were some of the largest the area had seen, and the Ki-B community rallied around Kris Mars and their daughters. And so with this prospect of the early release, it's reopened many of these wounds. So in June of 2025, the ISRB held a community concerns meeting specifically for the Mars case. These meetings are intended for victims, survivors, and witnesses to provide impact statements. Kris Mars has used social media to organize the community, encouraging people to write letters of concern to the board. And this resulted in a massive influx of letters from former students, former coaches, and residents, all arguing that the nature of the crime, a gang-related thrill kill of a defenseless man, warrants the full original sentence. The community's stance remains largely unchanged from 2004. Bob Mars's life was taken over a box of crackers and a cell phone, and for many in Benton City, the debt to society has not been paid. At the time of his death, Bob Mars, as I mentioned earlier, he was an assistant football coach for the Kiona-Benton Bears high school football team, often called Ki-B High School. While he coached at the high school level, he was a 6th grade teacher at Ki-B Middle School, and on the night he was murdered, he actually stopped by the middle school specifically to drop off game tapes from the football game, the football victory earlier that evening. In addition to his work with the Ki-B football program, he was also wrestling coach at Kennewick High School. His impact on the local sports community was so significant that Kennewick High now hosts what's known as the Bob Mars Invitational, one of the largest wrestling tournaments in the Pacific Northwest. It's clear that he was a fixture in the local athletic community across both the high school and the middle school levels. So that's just, what a great guy. The world was better because of him. He created these people that were, created kids, basically, not created kids, but he helped guide kids and mentor kids on a path that would guide them to be able to just do amazing things in their life. And was just tragically taken away from him by a 14 and a 16-year-old kid involved in gangs. And gangs, obviously, these kids were involved early on. I mean, they've got tattoos at 14, 16 years old that say MSP on them. So, yeah, I mean, it's just... this is a terrible, terrible thing that happened, and it's terrible for this family to have to deal with this. So, yeah, the debt to society, I don't know if it could ever be served right here, but obviously the state thinks that he will be serving his time regardless of whether we feel it's done. If these guys do their 27 to 30 years, they're going to get out at some point, which is horrible for us. So, but it's hopefully we make them stay longer. And yeah, and again, if we're making rehabilitations, but it sounds like I do like that this board is looking at these cases to see if people are, if these ones who commit these violent crimes and they're under 18, if they commit them, that they can change. And obviously, prison isn't the best place to rehabilitate some of these individuals. So I just wanted to come on line on that one and go over this case. It's a tough one. I remember this from when I was early on in 2004. That that's 22 years ago. So that would put me at around 27 years old. I was actually coaching high school football in a little town known as Zillow, Washington. So I had been to Kybee before. I've been to this. When I first started coaching, I coached in a little town called Natchez, and we actually went to Kybee for a jamboree football game one time too. So it's a little tight-knit community, good little place, and it's just too bad for what happened right here. So if you like, I want to thank you once again for listening to the D-Lo Show. If you like it, go ahead and like, subscribe, follow, let your friends know, and give me that 5-star review. If you have comments or anything, go ahead and hit me up on the socials. I'm on Facegram and Instabook. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm also on YouTube, so you can find these on YouTube as well. Hope you're having an awesome day. And stay safe out there, people. Keep looking out for each other. And if you know something, say something. Don't keep it locked up. And then take care.